My father and stepmother tried to take away the house my mother left me. You're just a freeloader pretending this house is yours, she taunted. But a family secret hidden for 30 years changed everything. Hi, my name is Claudia. I'm 37 years old and I live in Alicante, Spain. I've never written anything like this, but I need to get it out. It's killing me inside. And I have no one to talk to about this without feeling like no one understands me. Maybe someone here has experienced something similar. Or maybe I just need to feel like I'm not alone. My mother died 3 years ago. She left me her house, the house she grew up in the center of Alicante, through a trust. For those who don't know, that means the house is legally mine. And what she signed cannot be changed. She did it that way on purpose so no one could touch anything. She prepared everything before she got worse. And for a while I thought everything was fine. I moved in, started fixing it up little by little, slept in her room, cooked like her. It was the only thing that made me feel connected to her. But a few months ago, everything started to change. My father, Rafael, and his wife, Beatriz, who was never a maternal figure by the way, started making strange comments like, "Don't you think this house is too big for you alone? We could rent a floor to tourists, make some money. This is family property. We should make decisions together." And I'd be like, "Excuse me? My mother clearly left this for me. There's no discussion." And they pretended to accept it, but the energy wasn't good. Until a few days ago, I heard something that left me frozen. I arrived earlier than expected. I entered the house and heard voices from my father's office. The door was ajar. I didn't want to eavesdrop, but I heard this. "Beatriz, the New Testament is ready. Everything is in Raphael's name, as it should have been from the beginning." My father: "Are you sure no one will notice?" Beatriz: "The guy from the notary's office is paid off. And if Claudia tries anything, I have evidence to discredit her. The old papers will disappear." I was paralyzed, literally. I couldn't move. I felt like my soul had been ripped out. I spent the whole night without sleeping, thinking about my mother, everything she tried to protect, and how her own ex-husband is betraying her, betraying me. Then I remembered Mom's old notary, Don Ramon, a very serious older gentleman. She always trusted him. I looked for his number in an old notebook I still keep and called him. When I told him what I heard, he told me this. "Claudia, what you describe is invalid. That trust cannot be changed. Your mother left it closed. If there is a New Testament, it's false, period." I asked him if someone could have falsified it. He told me yes, and in fact, he had begun to suspect some time ago that a young person in his office had been making strange inquiries, and that he already has everything documented. In short, they're trying to steal my house. They're trying to erase the only thing I have left of my mother. And that's not all. Today, Yvonne, Beatriz's son, wrote to me. He was always quiet, somewhat distant, but he surprised me. He said he needed to talk to me, that he had seen something I needed to know. We met in a cafeteria. He was nervous. He showed me his phone, screenshots of emails where Beatriz was negotiating the sale of the house. She was already asking for a deposit. Her plan was to sell it secretly, collect the money, and go to Malaga with another man, leaving my father stranded. I was in shock. And then he dropped the bomb. "Claudia, I'm not Beatriz's son. I'm your mother's son. I found out recently. She had me before she married your father, and he hid it all this time so that I wouldn't have any rights." I was breathless. "I'm sorry. Yvonne is my brother, my real brother, and we've both been lied to our whole lives. I don't even know how to finish this post. I'm shaking as I write. I just know that I'm not going to let myself be defeated, not again, not after all this. Thank you if you've read this far. I'm not asking for advice. I just needed to tell it, even to strangers. Update. My father and his wife want to take my house and now they're really pushing it. Still me, Claudia. Thanks to everyone who commented on my first post. It moved me more than I can explain. Truly feeling heard by people who don't know me but believe me is priceless. And well, things haven't improved, on the contrary. My father and Beatriz are getting really annoying. It's as if they've already decided that the house is theirs and I'm the squatter. The other day my father came unannounced, opened the door with his copy of the keys, and started walking around the living room as if nothing was wrong. He sat on the sofa and said, "This is getting out of control. All of this would have been avoided if you weren't so selfish." I was like, "Excuse me? Selfish for staying in the house my mother legally left me. I told him to leave, that he had no right to be there without permission, and he said, "This house was built by my father, not your mother. You're just clinging to material things." And that's where everything inside me churned, because it's not about material things, it's about her, it's about my mother. This house is the last thing I have left of her. And I remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. I must have been about 10. There was a storm that night and I was scared. I went to her bed and snuggled up next to her. I remember her stroking my hair and saying, "Cloud, this house is strong. It has a woman's foundations. It will never let anything happen to you." And now they're trying to steal that same house from me as if my mother meant nothing. But anyway, I'm still here. Today I found some strange papers in the hallway. They were copies of the false will. They didn't even bother. On one sheet it said, still with marker, "You're still in time to do the right thing." Do the right thing for whom? For them. And as if that weren't enough, Beatrice sent an email to the real estate agent saying that the house is now vacant, that he can show it. Yvonne saw it. Thank goodness he's on my side. I don't know what I'd do without him. And yes, in case anyone is wondering, Yvonne continues to be a ray of light in all of this. He's confused, of course. He just found out that he's not Beatrice's son but my mother's, and that my father hid it from him his whole life. How do you digest that? Today he told me, "I don't know who I am anymore." And I told him, "Me neither. But at least we're not alone." I don't want to sound dramatic, but I feel like I'm at war inside my own house. I'm anxious all day, as if something bad is going to happen at any moment. The good news, if you can call it that, is that my mother's notary, Don Ramon, is willing to testify that the false will is a lie. He has proof, dates, records, everything. So we'll go to trial, there's no other way. And I know it's going to be tough, that they're going to talk badly about me, that they're going to try to tarnish my name. But this time I'm not going to remain silent, because I've already been silent for too many years. Thanks for reading. Update 2. My father and Beatrice are trying to kick me out of my house, and today they almost succeeded. It's Claudia again, and I don't even know where to start. I'm writing this with a lump in my throat and my phone in my hand, sitting on the kitchen floor. I don't know whether I want to cry or scream or leave here forever. But I can't, because this house is all I have left. And today, for the first time, I felt like I was really losing it. This morning Beatrice showed up at 9 a.m. She didn't knock, she came in as if it were hers. She was wearing sunglasses, a folder under her arm, and that expensive perfume smell that always makes my stomach churn. She came prepared. I was in my pajamas, not expecting anyone. "I've come to talk, not to argue," she told me, as if that made her a better person. She sat down, took out the papers. They were the same as always. Updated will, shared ownership, Raphael as the real heir. False, all false. I know it, the notary knows it. But seeing her there so calm, so confident, it broke something inside me. I told her to leave, that she was violating my space, that I knew everything was a lie, and then she said, "Claudia, don't make this more difficult. You're alone. You can't afford real lawyers. You're going to ruin your life over an old house and some emotions." I froze, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it, as if she were doing the right thing, as if she were saving me from myself. And suddenly I saw myself at 12 years old. It was summer. My parents were already doing badly, arguing all the time. Mom talked to me because she couldn't stand to hear him snore. One night she told me in a low voice, "Your father doesn't know how to love what he can't control." I didn't understand then, now I do. Today Beatrice saw me broken, but she made the mistake of thinking that would make me give in. After she left, leaving the folder on the table as a threat, I went straight to see Don Ramon. I told him everything, trembling. He looked at me seriously and said, "You have to prepare yourself. They're going to try everything, but if you don't give up, neither will they. And the worst thing is he's right. I'm exhausted. I don't have money for big lawyers. I support myself with occasional translation and design jobs. This house is the only stable thing in my life. My mother is gone. I don't have any siblings, or so I thought. Yvonne came over in the afternoon. He brought food. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Today was one of those days." I nodded, and for the first time I cried in front of him like a little girl. He hugged me tightly, didn't say anything, didn't need to. I don't know what's going to happen. I know this is going to be a long haul, that they're going to sink me if they can, that they're going to invent things that they're going to manipulate that maybe I'll lose. But I also know that I'm not that little girl anymore who kept quiet so as not to bother anyone. I don't know if this is a story about inheritance or a story about a daughter who finally got fed up with being invisible. Thank you. And you made it this far. I don't know who you are, but thank you for reading me. Update 3. Today I exploded and I'm not going to apologize. It's Claudia again. I don't even have the energy to title this. I just know that today I finally said everything I've been swallowing for years, and it wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. This morning my father called me again. Claudia, please come home. Beatrice is very upset. This can't go on. I told him no, that if he wanted to talk, he should go to his lawyer, not with emotional blackmail. And guess what happened? An hour later they knock on the door. Him, Beatrice, and a lawyer. I froze really. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. Beatrice with a victim's face, crying, the lawyer pulling out papers, and my father saying, "We just want everything to go back to normal, for us to reach an agreement. This isn't healthy for anyone." And something inside me clicked. Agreement about what? About how to steal my house without me complaining. About how to manipulate everything to make me look like the crazy one while you divide up what little I have left. They remained silent. Do you know how many times I kept quiet so as not to bother you, Dad? Do you know how many times I pretended everything was fine when you acted like this house was yours, when it's not? My face was burning, my legs were shaking, but I didn't stop. You weren't there when Mom got sick. You weren't there when she signed that trust with me, crying because she knew she had little time left. And now you come with a lawyer to tell me that this isn't healthy. Beatrice tried to speak. I told her no, to let me finish. You came into my life when she wasn't there anymore, and from the beginning you looked at me as if I were in the way, as if I were a problem that had to be removed. And right then Yvonne walked through the door. He stood silently listening. When he saw the papers, he stood in front of them and said, "Enough. Claudia is not alone, and what you're doing is a crime. I've seen the emails, the calls, everything, and I'm with her." My father stood up as if he had been spat on. "You don't know what you're saying." And then Yvonne calmly said, "Claudia is my sister. I know Mom is not my mother, and I know you've known it all along and you kept quiet." My father's face contorted. Beatrice looked at him as if she didn't know whether to hug him or spit on him. I stared at them both and felt nothing, neither fear nor sadness, only emptiness. "Leave and take your theatrics with you." And they left, leaving the papers on the table as if they were an undetonated bomb. When the door closed, I sat down on the stairs. Yvonne sat next to me. We didn't say anything, just breathed. And I said softly, "Mom used to tell me that this house had a woman's foundations, that it was strong." Today I understood. I don't know what will happen, but I know that I'm not going to remain silent anymore. Today I exploded, and I don't intend to apologize for it. Update 4. I went to court and came out different. It's Claudia again. I don't know how to put into words everything that happened this week, but I'm going to try, because I need to write it down so I don't forget it, to remind myself that I survived. The trial was quicker than we imagined. Don Ramon handed over the entire original file of the trust. Dates, signatures, recordings. He testified. He said before the judge, "Claudia's mother left me clear instructions. That document could not be modified. The rest is a crude forgery." My father's lawyer tried to present his version, but no one was listening attentively anymore, because then Yvonne asked to speak, and what he revealed was an earthquake. He took out copies of the emails, the chats, the audios. Beatrice was negotiating the illegal sale of this house. She planned to take the down payment and disappear to Malaga with her lover, all without my father knowing. And it was there that I saw my father freeze, literally. He remained stiff in his chair, staring into space. Beatrice tried to intervene. "That's not. It wasn't like that." But it was too late. My father turned slowly towards her and said softly, as if he couldn't raise his voice, "Is it true?" She didn't answer. She lowered her eyes and he simply broke down. He didn't cry, he didn't scream. He just put his hand to his face and stayed like that, in silence, as if all the air had gone out of his body. I had never seen him like that. Also that, after all this, "You lied to me too?" The room was silent. The judge waited a few seconds and then, as if nothing had happened, continued with his verdict. but I couldn't hear well anymore. My father was still there, but he wasn't the same. He had shrunk. His fingers were trembling. He didn't look at Beatrice or me again. The ruling was clear. The trust is irrevocable. The alternative document is false. It is referred to the prosecutor's office for possible crimes of forgery, fraud, and falsification of documents. Beatrice didn't raise her head. My father left last, alone, without looking at anyone. Outside I tried to leave, but he caught up with me. I didn't know about that man. I didn't know anything. And I didn't defend you either. I don't know at what point I became. I didn't know what to say to him because it hurt, but it was also too late. I just said, "You didn't have to sign anything. You just had to be there." He nodded and left, older, more alone. When we got home with Yvonne, I sat on the stairs. I said to him, "He didn't even do it for love. Beatrice was going to rip him off too. And him. My mother never wanted anyone, only power." Today the official resolution arrived. The house is mine. The trust is still intact. And Beatrice is being investigated for forgery and fraud. I don't feel victory. I feel something strange, as if I had won a battle I never wanted to fight. But yes, something. Mom would be proud. Last update. A year later he came back, but there's no longer room for everyone. Hi, it's Claudia. I didn't plan to write again, I thought everything had been said. But this morning something happened that made me open this app again. There was a knock at the door. It was him, my father. I hadn't seen him since the trial. Since that day he found out that Beatrice had lied to him all that time. Exactly 1 year had passed. I was in the garden fixing some flower pots, small things that now give me peace. And suddenly, Claudia. I turned around. There he was, thinner, older, with a different look. He had a small bag of bread and 2 coffees in his hand. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know whether to let him in, so I stood still. He lowered his eyes. "I'm not here to ask you for anything. I just wanted to apologize and give you this." He handed me an envelope. Inside, a handwritten letter. I started to read it right there in the garden. Just a few lines. "I lost my daughter without realizing it. I let another person take my place and hurt you. And when I opened my eyes, I had already failed you too much. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know that I know." I put the letter away. He didn't try to hug me, didn't seek drama. He just said, "Thank you for taking care of her, the house, your mother, yourself." And he left. I went back inside, sat on the armchair where Mom used to sleep when she couldn't bear the pain, and allowed myself to cry a little, not for him, for me, for the girl who for years only wanted her father to look at her without judgment, for the woman who had to learn to take care of herself alone. Yvonne came over later. We still talk every week. He's the closest thing to a real brother I've ever had. Today he brought something special. A printed copy of the project we're developing together. A cultural center on the ground floor of the house. Art classes, writing, family memories. It's going to be called Casa Reyes, Root House, because this house was roots and it was storm, and now it's finally going to flourish. And if someone is reading this and is going through something similar, I tell you seriously. It's not selfish to protect yourself. It's not betrayal to cut off those who destroy you. You're not crazy. You're not alone. And sometimes the bravest thing is not to shout, it's to say enough in a low voice and hold on to it. Thank you for reading me. Thank you for being there. Thank you for making me feel like my story was worth telling. This is the last time I write here, but it's not an ending. It's the beginning of something new, mine. Claudia, replying to edit. Hi again, I know I had already closed everything, that I had already said that this was the last update, but I couldn't leave without writing this. I just want to say thank you, really. I've read all your comments, all of them, sometimes in bed at 2 a.m., crying silently, sometimes in the kitchen while drinking coffee, unable to swallow. You have no idea how much you helped me, because for years I thought everything was my fault, that if my family treated me that way it was because I was doing something wrong, that if it hurt me so much it was because I was too sensitive, that if I was bothered by the house issue it was because I was materialistic, that if I distanced myself it was because I was resentful. And I believed it. They hammered it into my head so much that I started to doubt my own emotions. And then one day, completely broken, I wrote here, thinking that no one would read it, that they would judge me, that they would say, ugh, another family drama. But no, what I found were people telling me, I went through something similar too. You're not crazy. I believe you. And you don't know how powerful that is when you've spent years feeling invisible. I'm not strong, or at least I don't feel that way. I was afraid all the time, afraid of losing the house, afraid that no one would believe me, afraid of confronting my father, afraid that Yvonne would leave, afraid of exaggerating, afraid of being alone. And the worst thing is that I got used to living with that fear, until one day I just couldn't take it anymore. So I wrote, and you were there. Thank you truly. I have no better words, because you read me when not even my own family listened to me, because you defended me without knowing me, because you made me feel seen. And if you who are reading this right now are in the middle of something similar, if you feel like you're carrying something that breaks you inside, I tell you with all my heart, it's not your fault. You're not asking for too much. You're not being weak. And you're not alone. Sometimes we just need someone to tell us, you have the right to be tired and you have the right to stop. I'm not an example of anything. I'm just someone who didn't want to put up with it anymore, and that saved me. Thank you for supporting me without knowing me. Thank you for making me feel like my story mattered. This is really the last thing I write, but I leave with my heart a little more at peace.